and welcome to Senior Living Marketing Perspectives. I'm Debbie Howard, co-founder of Senior Living Smart. And today I am meeting and interviewing and chatting with Sherry Bonelli, who is the owner of Early Bird Digital Marketing. She is an expert in search engine optimization and digital marketing professional with over 23 years of experience. Although she does not look like she has 23 years of experience at all. She looks fabulous. Her digital marketing agency, Early Bird Digital Marketing, serves clients from all over the country. And Sherry is a Google Business Profile Gold product expert, and we're going to get into what that is because I'm fascinated. And she's a columnist for leading marketing websites like Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, Moz, Adweek, and others. She's received Search Engine Land's 2018 SEO Contributor of the Year Award. She's also a recognized presenter and speaker at leading digital marketing conferences, podcasts, and webinars like Traffic and Conversion Summit for multiple years, State of Search, Digital Marketer, SCORE, Moz, Edge of the Web, Local Marketing Institute, Midwest Digital Marketing Conference, one of our favorites, Duct Tape Marketing, and others. Sherry holds a master's degree in internet marketing, and she's also a LinkedIn learning instructor, adjunct instructor at several colleges and universities, and she is the host of the Marketing Plan podcast. Woo! That is like the best bio I've ever had the opportunity to read. So honored to have you, Sherry. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Well, I would love to start off with what is a Google Business Profile Gold product expert?
Yes. So Google has product experts in virtually all of their tools. And so there's product experts in maps, for instance. And so what Google does is they go out and find people that are active in the help forums, people that are experts and proficient in their tools, and they invite people to be part of the product expert program. So it's a by invitation only program. And then you basically build your way up from basically silver all the way to diamond. And so I'm at the gold level.
Oh, that is wonderful. So
Yep.
Does that give you access to insights? Do you get to get a sneak peek at things that are coming?
We do. Yeah. I'm not a Google employee, but we do meet with Google and we get to hear some cool, juicy things. But of course, I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about those cool, juicy things. But it's very nice to be able to contribute to Google, give feedback. They're awesome about listening to what us product experts have to say about what's going on in the industry, how we think businesses are perceiving changes and those types of things. So it's very fun to be part of the program.
Oh, what a wonderful opportunity. Well, as you know, we serve seniors housing and care industry exclusively. And so all of our listeners are somehow in that industry as well. And what we do is really hyper local. We even our clients who are pretty major chains that have 80, 100 locations in multiple states. When you're actually looking for our services, most people come from between a 5 and 15 mile radius. So although we look at branding as being a little bit more global, the actual impact to the individual locations and properties and senior living communities is all a hyper local marketing. So that's why I think this is so timely. So I'd love to hear from you around anything that you can share around local search and the algorithm and Google and how our listeners can really elevate their ranking.
Yeah. So first of all, Google doesn't share anything about their algorithm, not even with the product experts. They're very secret. I know they're very secretive about those types of things. Remember, I was at a conference and got to ask one of the Google experts a question, and he flat out said, not going to tell you anything about the algorithm. You could ask, but I'm not going to tell you. And so they don't give us any information. But what our SEO experts do is we analyze data and we go ahead and look and see what's working for our clients, what's not working for our clients, what's helping them rank, what's helping them get more traffic. And then we talk amongst ourselves and we figure out what's working. And so there are people in our industry that specifically look at local rankings and kind of determine what we feel is working within the industry. And from that, we can extrapolate and determine what are those ranking factors with regard to local and national SEO for that matter. And so with regard to local SEO, Whitespark does a study every year, and I was lucky to be a part of it this year. And Darren Shaw, who is the owner of Whitespark, goes out and reaches out to experts in the SEO, local SEO industry, and asks a whole slew of questions about what we feel is working. And so you may want to look up that report, but I can go ahead and give you a link to that as well. But with regard to general local ranking factors in general, there's a whole slew of things that impact local rankings. And with regard to local rankings, obviously Google My Business is one of those, right? You want to claim and optimize your Google My Business listing. You want online reviews. But not only that, what a lot of people don't understand with Google My Business, or I'm sorry, Google Business Profiles.
Will we ever get used to that?
No, I'm sorry. I don't think I ever will. But with regard to Google Business Profiles, people think, okay, I have a Google Business Profile. I've completed all the information. I have 55-star reviews, and my competitor, who only has 10 5-star reviews, is beating me in the rankings. What they don't understand is Google looks at your whole online profile, essentially. So it's not just your Google Business Profile that they're looking at. They're looking at your website. They're looking at your online citations and online business directories. They're looking at how authoritative you are in the industry. Like, are you an authority in your industry? Are you writing blog posts and getting recognition from other industry websites related to your business? So they're looking at all sorts of things. It's not just your Google Business Profile they're looking at when it comes to ranking. So it's a whole slew of things, and so it's not just one thing that Google looks at. It's hundreds of different factors.
Well, that makes it simple, right? You just have to do everything right everywhere.
Yeah. And then optimizing your website as well. So like on-page optimization, making sure you're linking from one page to another page on your site so that Google can crawl easy, making sure that you're getting backlinks from relevant businesses within your local area. So you may want to, for instance, connect with your local chamber of commerce and make sure that you are listed on their website and get a link back to your website. Or if there's a business website that you can do an article for, or partner with maybe a local charity and get a link that way. So there's lots of things that you can do as a local business to get those backlinks that you should try and go ahead and do those types of things. So there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into local ranking. The other thing that people don't realize is what on your screen is different what other people see on their search results. And so everybody's search results are different. I remember years ago, everyone saw the exact same thing when they did search. And back then it was easy to run a ranking report and everyone saw first, second, third, fourth, and fifth position. They all saw the same thing. Now proximity matters. So where that searcher is when they're doing that search impacts what they're going to see in that search result page. And so if your business is closer to the searcher when they're doing that search, you're probably going to rank higher than the business that's further down the road. So all of those things matter. So I guess what I would tell people is don't get discouraged if you do a search on your computer and say, gosh darn it, I'm in the 20th spot. Why is that? You may not be in the 20th spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad you mentioned that because so often we'll have clients that just endlessly Google themselves and they get really frustrated. And I'm like, they already gave you a set of results that you didn't like. And next time you're Googling it, they're giving you a different set of results because they're like, I already teed up these communities. You didn't click on any of them. So maybe next time I'm going to search, maybe I'll try to give you something different that's a better fit. So unless you're in incognito mode, it is hard for an individual to do that independently. I don't know whether there's any tools. We like the Bright Local, that grid that Bright Local came up with?
Bright Local has a grid and Local Falcon also has a great grid as well. And so those grids are great because you can actually specify how far out you want to do your search, whether it's 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever. And you can actually see based on like zip code how you rank in those areas. And it's totally impartial.
Yeah.
And that is really a more true indication of how you rank versus you just doing it yourself.
And it's so complex too, because the set of words that we might want people to use to describe us is what we're searching for. So perhaps we want to call ourselves an assisted living community, but somebody else wants to call us a nursing home, or they want to call us a rest home or something, because they don't know what words to use. And so there are times, like what I like about those screens is not only can I determine my radius, but I can run that search grid to say, well, how am I going to do on assisted living versus memory care versus dementia versus personal care home? And I'll get a different set of results, and I'll be able to see which competitors are ranking higher than me for each of those designations, and then create a strategy from there. Is that how you would recommend using those types of tools?
Yeah. And that's why keyword research is so important when it comes to figuring out a strategy. You really need to know what keywords people are using to search for your industry. And as you mentioned, you think people may be looking for assisted care living, whereas people still may be looking for nursing homes.
Right.
And you may be shocked to find out that more people are looking for nursing homes than assisted care living, even though the industry is trying to move away from that nursing home because it may be not the most flattering term to use for your business. People are still searching more for that older term. And if that's the case, then you need to optimize your pages for that terminology. And maybe you use both assisted living and nursing home on your pages so that you get that term in there so that you rank higher for that.
Yeah, people don't want to use that because we're not a nursing home. But you've got to creatively figure out how to still get that word in there.
Absolutely.
And you can compare and contrast why you're not a nursing home while still using that keyword. Or you can even be playful about it. Like, good news, we're not your grandma's nursing home. Life is happening here, and this is a really fun and cool place to be. But it is that balance of understanding, especially I think with what we're selling, is that people don't have any familiarity of how to buy our service. It's not something that they're going to do often, and they're not always going to call it the right thing that we want them to call it.
And that's why I tell people don't use like industry lingo, industry jargon, because you want to search or you want to use the phrases that people are going to search for. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're not going to get found, there's really no point. And so you need to do that keyword research up front to figure out how people are finding businesses like yours and what keywords they're actually entering for real.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, is look at the volume, and then how difficult is it to rank for that particular keyword, and then develop your strategy and your content calendar from there. And I guess that goes back to your point about creating authority, right?
Right. Yeah. So Google really looks for businesses, especially in your money or your life type of industries, where they're really trying to find websites that have authority. So you want to create lots of content on your site, especially in your industry, I think, that shows value and educating the consumer about what your business does, why you're better, not just hypey stuff, but actually really talk about what you do better, what you do different, and providing educational information to the consumer about assisted living or whatever it is that you specialize in, whether it's memory care or whatever. And if you can back that up by any scientific data and then link out to those websites, that's beneficial. Anything that you can do to prove your authority to Google, that can also boost your rankings. And the other thing is, if you can also do guest writing, guest blogging, or do interviews on blog or podcasts like we're doing right now, that builds up your authority as well. So if you can get backlinks from authoritative podcasts and authoritative blogs and authoritative websites, that's going to boost your authority in Google's eyes as well. And that's what you really need to get.
Right. Well, it sounds like there's really the art and science to get all of these factors covered within your strategy and within your tactics. So you've got the technical aspects, right? So back to the website's got to be fast and it's got to be responsive. It's got to be great on mobile. I think I saw that you did an article on voice search and kind of optimizing for that. But then there's also the human side of it. It still has to resonate and be human and be informative.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
It's a little art and science. Can you share a little bit about where you think voice is going? Do you see people, obviously 60 to 70% of our searches are showing up on mobile, but are people saying maybe out driving around and really activating that voice search feature?
Every time you talk to Siri on your iPhone, that's a voice search. And so Siri pulls up results. And so anytime you do that, that's a voice search. And so she doesn't necessarily tell you all of the results. She pulls up often web pages, right? And so that's very important that you optimize. And same with regard to like voice assistants like Amazon. I don't want to say the word Alexa, or mine will probably start piping in. They pull their results from Bing and from Yelp and from other resources as well. So that's why it's very important to be listed on Yelp and online directories, and Apple's device as well, and Google's device. They all pull from different places. And so that's why if you're trying to be found for assisted living facilities near me, they often look at online rankings and will often pull those results, those businesses first. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Right. What used to be everybody just wanted to be on page one, and now page one isn't even good enough for SEO. Everyone wants to be in that darn 3-pack and map.
Yep, exactly.
So what advice do you have for people to, I guess, first of all, is to find out, well, where are you now? If you don't even know where you rank now, are you even on page one? That would be the first goal. And then once you're on page one, how do you elevate into that coveted 3-pack and map? So I'd love to hear from you about that. We get a lot of questions on that one.
Yeah, and that's really a tough one because there are very few things that you can do on your Google business profile that actually impact rankings. And the couple things that you can do would be your category, making sure you pick the primary category that is very specific to what you want to rank for. Mm-hmm. And so with regard to assisted living, is it assisted living? Is it aged care? What exactly do you want to rank for? So make sure you pick that primary category very carefully. And be very careful by not changing those categories very often, because sometimes that will trigger either a re-verification of your business or it could trigger a suspension. Okay. So be careful about changing that kind of stuff up very often. Mm-hmm. And then the other things that can impact rankings are the reviews. And so obviously you want to ethically get online reviews on Google business profiles. You can't bribe people. So if you're trying to bribe people by entering them into a contest and stuff like that, that's not cool. You can't do that. But you also want to try and get reviews on other online review sites as well. Okay. Because Google will pull those reviews in from Facebook and Yelp and show those on your knowledge panel, which is what shows up on the right-hand side if you search for your business name specifically. So if you search for your business name and your city, your knowledge panel will appear on the right-hand side in most cases, unless you have a really generic name like New York Assisted Living Home.
Right.
Then it probably won't show up. And so those things, and then your business name. Now, we do see a lot of businesses, unfortunately, changing their business names legally to be very generic keywords. I have a really hard time with that because I think that Google is going to eventually de-emphasize that as a ranking factor. And I think it's going to go the way of the Yellow Pages. If anyone is old enough to remember the Yellow Pages, when everyone was naming their business AAA plumbing and AAA lawyers and AAA because they wanted to be the first listing in the Yellow Pages.
Right.
I think Google's going to eventually not place as much emphasis on the business name as a ranking factor. And we're already starting to see that with the latest algorithm, where businesses that had a generic business name, they're now not ranking as high as they were a few months ago. And so I think that's starting to come into effect. Yes.
And Sherry, do you think that there are certain metrics you can pull from your Google Analytics to maybe recognize opportunities to improve? So if you're looking at bounce rates that are high, or time on page that's low, or very little consumption of your content, where do you start for looking at? I'm sure that there probably are some quick wins that you recommend to your clients. Look, here are some things you probably have overlooked that if we just focus on those in the first 30 days, is going to begin to create some optimization for you, versus things that might take 6 months to build out, like a content calendar with keyword research and blogs and backlinks and pillar pages and hub pages and all of those others. So can you speak a little bit to the quick wins versus maybe some of the longer tail strategies?
Yeah. So some things that I look for is you do that keyword research up front, and then you see where your pages are ranking. And depending on how your pages are ranking, you see how close you are on your pages to being on that first page. So if you have a page that is ranking maybe in the 11th spot, maybe if you optimize that page just a little bit more and make it a little bit better, you have a better chance of ranking higher. Now, you want to make sure that that page doesn't also rank high for another keyword, right?
Right.
That you don't jeopardize that. So you want to be careful about that. But if you find that you're real close to ranking on page one for a particular keyword on a particular page, go in and optimize that page a little bit more and check it the next month. I've seen great results from my clients where I'll go in and do that, and the next month we're ranking higher. We'll go up several positions, and in some cases 20 positions, just because we went in and optimized that page a little bit more. So those can be really quick wins as well. And I think that's one of the best ways to improve your rankings and then also improve the content on your site.
So start with what's working, where you already are beginning to get traction, and optimize those first while you're revamping other pages that might take longer to kind of index, right?
Yep, exactly. Because you're close. So just do some more things to tweak it just a little bit more to get it to rank higher.
Awesome. That's great. And then we do get a lot of questions about competitor sleuthing. So how do I find out what my competitors are doing, how we're doing compared to them, and how do I beat them at this SEO game?
That can be tough. So there are tools out there that you can use to do that. They generally will cost anywhere from $100 a month on up. And so it depends on how serious you are about getting into this game and improving. So SEM Rush is great. SE Ranking is great. Moz is great. There's just a ton of great tools out there that will help you go in and really delve into what your competitors are doing. But the other thing you can do is just do a search and then just go in and see who's ranking and look at their pages. Do they have keywords in the headings? And if they do, is it the header 1? Is it the header 2? What do they have there? Do they have the keywords towards the front of the header? Okay, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe you should do that. Do they have, what words do they have? A tool that I absolutely love, and I don't know what the price is anymore. I was lucky and got it on AppSumo, but Market Muse is a great tool. What that tool does is you can put in your website URL, or you can put in a competitor's URL, and you can go ahead and optimize pages. And what it does is it looks at competitors' websites that are ranking high, and it tells you what keywords you should be adding to your page to be more competitive. So that's a great tool. I love that tool for optimizing content because it just, it gives you ideas that you wouldn't necessarily think of. It's like, dang, I wouldn't have thought to use electrician in this context. So that's a great tool as well. But I think just going in and analyzing the pages, do they have more photos? Are they original photos versus stock photos? Are they using alt tags? Did they rename the actual file of the photo itself, or are they using the gibberish that the camera spit out? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's lots of things that you can do on your own without spending money on an SEO tool, for instance, just by taking a look at the competitors' pages and just looking and seeing what they're doing and try and replicate that. Don't necessarily copy, because obviously you don't want to steal from someone, but you can go ahead and mirror what they're doing on your own site and do it better. That would be the goal.
Yeah. That's all great. I learned something I didn't know about Market Muse, so I will definitely be checking that out.
It's
We have so
awesome.
many other tools, all the expensive ones we definitely have. So
Yeah.
good to know about those other ones to recommend. And then I know we had a conversation about third-party integrations with Google Business Profile because it's very manual for our team to upload every blog. But we feel like there's enough value in adding that content or upcoming events or things like that, even though it may be temporary, because I don't think it stores it for very long. But then you had said honestly that right now you're better off not using some of those third-party tools, and that the manual work is probably the best approach. So I just wondered if you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, I think you were talking about posts, right? You were talking about
Yeah.
using a third party tool to make Google Business Profile posts.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I generally recommend is be very careful about using and integrating a third party tool with your Google Business Profile. And I'll give you an example. If that third party tool for some reason violates Google's terms and conditions, that can put you in jeopardy, potentially being suspended because you're using the tool.
Mm-hmm.
But that third party tool can also make unwanted changes to your profile that can cause a suspension or that can cause changes that you didn't want it to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
gave you the example of what happened to me. So I am a service area business. I run my digital marketing agency out of my home. And so I go out to my local clients and meet them at their business or at a coffee shop, for instance. And
Mm-hmm.
so I unknowingly had a third party tool attached to my Google Business Profile. And sometimes you don't know that you have them attached.
Right.
And so I went to go edit and add to my profile and noticed that I had a suspension. And I went, I know what to do. How did I get suspended? And I
Right.
noticed that my address was listed. And as a service area business, you can't display your address. Of course, I know
That
this.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I went, curse words came out of my mouth, and I told my husband, I'm suspended. How did this happen? What
Right.
the heck?
Yeah.
And I did some research and found out that a third party tool that was attached to my Google Business Profile added my address to my profile, and Google suspended me for it. And so most of the product experts generally recommend not to connect third party tools to your Google Business Profile. If you do, be very, very careful and just know that sometimes those third party tools can make changes to your profile that you don't know that they're going to make. So just be very leery about that and just be very cautious and know that that can sometimes happen.
Yeah, I think we had that happen somewhere about changing hours of operation. And one day we were looking at some client profiles and, oh, that's not what we put in there. But somehow
Yes,
it got changed and we had to change it back.
I know. And that happens often where you go in and change it and then suddenly it gets changed back and you're going, what the heck? And then you change it back and then it gets reverted back. And it's because of a third party tool that's doing it.
Yeah, interesting. And then just around your point around proximity, we often have people trying to stuff in a lot of locator type of words
Mhm.
into the copy, which doesn't make it really easy to read. It doesn't enhance the user experience in any way, but they're just trying to make sure that all of those specific markets that are age and income qualified that they're trying to get, does that really add value either on page SEO or with the business profile of any kind? Or do you think the proximity algorithm is going to automatically match up those IP addresses?
Right. So, as far as the Google Business Profile goes, adding a bunch of locations that you serve in your business description is not going to do you a hill of beans good. It's not going to do anything for you. The description, for instance, doesn't impact rankings at all. And so you can't add, for instance, a location to your business name that violates Google's terms of service. Okay. And unless that location is actually legally part of your business name, it's on your signage, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So there's
Yeah.
rules. Always follow Google's guidelines for representing your business on Google. And I say always check that at least once every 1 to 2 months, because Google makes changes to those guidelines and you always want to make sure you're in compliance. So that's another tip. With regard to adding those on page, I think it looks silly. I was optimizing a client's website and he had zip codes everywhere and a whole slew of suburbs of Chicago that he added. And I'm just like, this is not good for the user.
Right.
And that's what Google wants you to do. They want you to write for the user. They don't want you to write for Google. And first of all, most users don't enter zip codes. So if you're putting a bunch of zip codes on your website, most searchers don't use zip codes, first of all. And second of all, it's okay probably to put a few cities if you want to, maybe in the footer of your website, maybe saying conveniently located near, and maybe list 3 cities, but don't go overboard with it. And then one thing with regard to cities, if you're going to add it, make sure it adds value. So if you're going to use it in a heading, for instance, don't say Cedar Rapids Assisted Living Facility as a heading 1. Just say Cedar Rapids Trusted Assisted Living Facility, and then back that up by showing some reviews that you received. That way you're actually getting a city name in there and you're building up social proof by showing the reviews that you're getting. So that's a good way to actually add the city name to a prominent feature that Google looks at, which is a heading 1, for instance, but you're not making it obnoxious. It actually adds some value to the page.
Yeah. So as long as you have context, that definitely helps.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Well, this has been such a great opportunity to dig more into local search. And I know I could talk to you forever about this.
I could too.
Very selfish of me. I get all these wonderful guests on and I just ask all these smart people questions that keep me up at night. So thank you for sharing all of your knowledge.
You're welcome. I could talk all day too.
I do thank you for being on and sharing your senior living marketing perspectives with us. And I just love to direct people to you. So if they would like your help, they'd like to hire you to do SEO audits or optimization projects with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can visit earlybirddigitalmarketing.com. And you can also message me on Twitter. My handle is at Sherry, Sherry, Bonelli, Bonelli. That's probably the best way to do it. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, you are very visible out there. So you're doing your own optimization every day, I am sure. And we will include links to tools and anything that you'd like to share. We'll put those into the show notes. Awesome. And then I think you have a class on LinkedIn Learning. Is that something that people can sign up for?
Yes, and I will go ahead and give you that link so you can put it in the show notes as well. I have an introduction to local SEO course on LinkedIn, and that was quite a fun project and quite an eye-opener as to how much time it takes to create a course. And so I will give you that link as well. It's a great introduction to local SEO. So we cover everything from keyword research to Google business profile. It's called Google My Business in the course, but same thing. Not much has changed. And all the way to content, all sorts of things. So it's a great course and it's very affordable. So definitely check it out.
That's great. Thanks so much, Sherry. Thanks for stopping by and I hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.